What is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And we're coming to you live from a couple of places on the internet. We're live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. We're live on X, my favorite platform. I love
X
calling
gonna
it
give
that.
it to
Yeah,
you.
you love it. You love it. Yo, David McKay in the crowd tonight. Remember?
Nice.
Remember that guy?
I do remember that guy. And I remember all of you. Even if you aren't watching live, we're coming to you later on a bunch of different podcast platforms. Maybe you're listening on Spotify. Maybe you're listening on Apple or Android or wherever you get your podcast. It's all good. We have a packed show for you tonight, a huge show for you tonight, with a lot of awesome guests. Some of them are calling in internationally from various time zones all over the place. Wow. So I want to get to the ones that are latest first so they can go to bed.
I already have jet lag. I have it.
They are the creators of the book Fixing Flamingos, which comes out September 19th from Chronicle. Brian, Rea, and Lucienne Brown. Hello, welcome.
Hey, guys.
Oh my gosh. So real quick, because this is definitely not the most interesting part of the show, but it's the most interesting part to me, is where are you calling from right now? You guys are from London and Stockholm?
I'm in London.
Okay,
and I'm in Stockholm, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we won't ask what time it is, but thank you for staying up late. We appreciate it. This book is great. As I said, it's coming out September 19th from Chronicle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I guess we could talk about the framing of it. It's basically this intern in heaven taking notes on potential improvements for different parts of the world. It marries these delightful spot illustrations with text from the intern. It was a joy to read. I loved reading this book. I had so much fun. How did you two get hooked up on this project? Was this something that came from both of you together? Did one of you find the other? How did it come together?
Lucy, you want to take this one?
Well, we've known each other for a very long time, and we've had lots of really odd conversations over the last 20 years. And I think the one that prompted this book was, have you ever been in a meeting where you kind of zoned out because it's a bit boring, and you look at people's mouths and you just think, mouths are insane.
Almost all of my meetings I'm doing.
You've just got this hole in your head. And then there's like these hard things that kind of protect it, and things go in it, and then sound comes out of it. Sometimes things come out of it. And so it was just one of those things where I'd kind of zoned out on this thought and then mentioned it to Brian. And then when you say things like this to Brian, he has all these like creativity receptors that just kind of fire off. And he said, well, what would you do differently? And that's kind of where we started talking about how, if you were in charge of designing yourself, what would you have done differently to this?
Yeah, and we had it. I mean, I think initially it was we kind of were just carrying this or cataloging a list. We were throwing, and it all of this kind of happened during COVID. So there was this kind of period where everything kind of slowed down. We had, obviously, all of us had a lot more time on our hands. And so we could just kind of play with this, and we'd throw things back and forth and just kind of constantly make each other laugh about these absurd things. Not really thinking, oh, well, we've got something here to make a book, but it was more just like, oh, this is totally insane. It's like you look at the end of your arms and you've got fucking fingers, and who the hell comes up with that? It's like the most ridiculous thing. But if you actually step back and look at that, almost the way a child looks at everything and asks all these absurd questions, we lose that ability as we get older. And I think the more we started to kind of slow down, observe, look at the world, the list just kept growing, longer and longer and longer. And I think so, some of that we kind of maintained some of that in the book, this idea of perception and kind of almost giving people a kind of lens to look at the world in the absurd, absolutely fantastical way that the world already is.
It's so funny you say that, because this book is the most COVID created book. It's we're very creative people, and we had every minute on our hands. So we fixed the small things.
Yeah, we fixed everything. What's so crazy about that, Justin, is, and Lucy and I were talking about this earlier today, we were like, how many are actually in the book? If the book is essentially Abby's field notes for all these changes, but it's also the absolutely absurd suggestions that people who have died submit, right? They have to fill in a feedback form when they're queuing to get into heaven. And this is like it's really just their suggestions. But we were trying to count up, and Lucy, how many did we come up with that made it in the book?
We did about 300, and then we whittled it down to 136 in the book.
Wow. Saved some of that for the sequel. Real quick, Alex, I just want to be clear. Did you bring up penis colors purposefully as a thing?
Beautiful.
No, I actually wanted that to be third. I just don't know how to make PDFs. So.
Well, we were trying to figure out how we were gonna like slip in clapping labias into this conversation. So I'm happy that you put that right there, right up front. So well done, you.
I do love the amount of them that are in there, like we're talking about. And I say this totally complimentary because you get this sort of book. Usually it's like, oh, there's 20, 30 ideas or something like that. And I expected it to be over at a certain point, and then it just kept going and getting more delightful and unhinged as it went.
Oh, that's great to hear. Well, we appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, I think also one of the things that, Lucy, this is Lucy's first book, we should point out. And, I kept describing her as like a meteor landing in your front yard, and you're just like amazed by this thing. And she's such a good writer. And, I was just going through it again just before we got on, and like, even the things that like the cause of death for the people that are suggested, that in and of itself is a book, but it was like that layered with all these other things that Lucy, magically put together that I thought was just so much fun to work with that content.
Yeah, I totally agree, because it really, the fun jumps off the page. Like, this is so much fun to read. There's so many layers to the amount of fun that you can have with this. I really had, the more I read it, the more fun I was having. I didn't want it to stop, so I'm not surprised that there were 300 ideas, because the fun really jumps off the page. I mean, this is some of these ideas are so amazing. It might form a religion. I want to do job interviews like this. Yeah. Like the job interview one alone, I was just rolling on the ground laughing. I thought this was so. Yeah, the feet one, I was cracking up, and then like, oh, there are no cons to this. It's such a great idea, and then it was like, oh, the clowns are gonna hate it. Like, this so funny.
This book should be on every coffee table in America with like a pretty thick joint just resting. Like
yeah, it should come with the joint. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a great pairing.
Just actually, I have a couple more questions, but first, before I forget, I did want to bring something else up. So every week on the show, we have a professional chef. His name is Brett Macris, a.k.a. Stray Bullet, who either curates or creates a drink for the show. And this week, he actually created one based on your book, the I Fixed a Flamingo. So I got one right here. It's kind of tiny right now.
Beautiful.
But it has strawberries, lime juice, simple syrup, pineapple juice, rum, Aperol, and a little strawberry that's been sprinkled. I'm not going to turn this and spill it all over my keyboard. With black pepper there. So there you go. He fixed.
Beautiful. You need to send that over to us. Absolutely. I'm going to absolutely make this cocktail just after this call.
Yeah, nice. I haven't tried it yet. I was waiting to show it off here. But.
Oh wow!
A live tasting.
That's delicious. There you go. We fixed flamingos. That's what flamingos taste like. Now I know.
Often I feel like with a book like this, it's like, well, what's your favorite one? Where there's so many things, but it makes me want to ask the question: what was the first one of the 300 that you cut? Like, what was the first one out?
Man, we were prepped for questions. I don't know if I can answer. Lucy, can you answer that?
We had a lot about hair. I mean, we cut some out because hair came up loads, so we thought we couldn't have the whole book about hair.
Yeah,
and hair is a problem. And then there were a lot of horses. For some reason, we were really fixated on horses.
Tons of ponies.
They're
right.
Weird.
That's right.
They're
and
weird.
Fingernails. We had a lot of fingernail things as well.
That one creeped me out. There's one drawing you did, Brian, of somebody with insanely long fingernails.
Yeah.
That may, honestly, guys, I think that actually might have been the first drawing. In fact, that drawing may have made it from the pitch, like when we were dropping the book around. That I think was in the first iteration of what this what this will actually look like, because I think stylistically you start to think about, is it, do you do it really straight? Do you draw? And I mean, I work as an illustrator, so like my whole life has revolved in and around drawing in some way and telling stories.
You can tell by your background that's
yeah. Well, yeah, that's my kid's art show. He's like obsessed with comics. He actually said to me, he's like, "Dad, are you going to be on this comic thing?" He's like 6, and he said, "Are you going to be famous tomorrow?"
The answer is medium.
But I think the thing that was a big part of some of that conversation and the collaboration between me and Lucy is that like trying to decide stylistically which way do we go. Do we do it very serious drawings? Do you do it absurd? I have a style of illustration that I use that people probably know, but with this book we wanted to go with a slightly different approach. And then, as you were saying, once you kind of get into the book and you're kind of going on and on and on, you can kind of expand and stretch and apply that style in a lot of different ways, in a way that Lucy did with the writing, in a lot
Well, it's perfect. It's just such a great combination of art that's kind of like whimsical that meets the idea. It really, really works.
Yeah, for those of you listening and not seeing this, it reminds me of, if you ever seen like John Lennon's art. Back he did a lot of artwork in sort of like books and liner notes and stuff like that. And it has that sort of like sense to it.
But yeah, it reminded me of where the sidewalk ends, where kind of art and kind of like ideas kind of meet.
Well, and Brian, we should probably mention are you still the official artist for Modern Love?
Yeah, still working on the column as well. In fact, tonight's my night that I just submitted sketches a few hours ago. So
awesome.
And I'll work on the finished piece tonight and tomorrow morning before New York wakes up. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, if anybody has ever seen the Modern Love column, which I'm sure most of you have, you've probably seen Brian's illustrations before. One theme that I saw recurring throughout the book, and Lucy, I'm curious to hear from you about this, is reverse aging. Like that is something that seemed to pop up a bunch. Why was that important to you?
That's kind of that's a bit embarrassing, really. I guess getting older, it's in my mind all the time. So definitely, you get hotter as you get older. That was definitely like wishful thinking.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you're 80, just everyone fancies you because you're that gorgeous. Yeah, I think maybe we could have toned that down a bit, but we're both.
No, I loved it. I thought it was a very interesting thing to have this framing of a person writing all of these things from heaven, and these other people from heaven being very obsessed with the idea of aging backwards. I think there's something totally interesting there about potentially what it says about these people who either died too young or died before they were ready or something like that, whether that was meant or not.
Well, yeah, and the fact that you can choose your age when you go back up to heaven. So everybody kind of goes for about 19 because that was really fun. That's a fun age. It goes tits up. So
it strikes me that there might have been a version of this that is like just sort of direct. Here are some ways to upgrade everything in the world.
Yeah.
But we have this character and framing device. What brought you to that, and why is that so important to the book?
That I think. Well, Lucy, you can probably speak to this a bit more, but I do know that initially we were just calling the list suggestions for evolution. And Justin, like you were saying, you could so easily just do that as like a gag, like a joke, a very simple joke book, like a novelty book. But Lucy, I think early on we realized that we needed to build a story around it, like to make it a bit more character driven.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you needed a kind of an arc really to the story. I mean, you've got to have a story where something happens. So Abby came in and, she messes things up a bit with Flamingos. Not going to give any spoilers away, but
no.
So yeah, but Abby, we really like Abby as well. I think she's a good character.
She's earnest, right? Like she's got like she's making a proper effort on everything, but like anyone who's perhaps started a job, like a big job for the first time, like they're a bit in over their head, right? But their dedication is real. But but she approaches all these things very seriously, right? She's like, she's got a stack of suggestions, and every day that stack just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and she's kind of just sifting through it, trying to figure out which ones of these are feasible, which ones of these are just worthless and rubbish, and which of the people that are submitting them are just absolutely batshit crazy. So,
well, I like that it's like there's not the sort of on the ground stakes of like, well, this is the priority. It's like, no, I'm gonna put more time into Ant maybe than I did to War or whatever. Like, it's very much like an equal opportunity approach to fixing stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's a very, she's dedicated to the job. It could go places. It's an internship. So.
And if I could have her email address, I would love that. I just have some fixes that I need.
You got to die first, Justin. You have to die first.
All right.
Okay, here we go. We got a couple of comments here or questions from YouTube I wanted to bring up. You touched on this a little bit, Brian, but complete tangent. But is that a children's drawing of someone giving the finger in the background? I think
I'm assuming that one.
Yeah.
No, that I believe was a portrait. I mean, that might be a portrait of me, actually. He did a couple of there's a really horrific one up above.
It looks like an old school bank robber.
Yeah, but it's this great one of those like big marker tools, and it's just like the ink is permanent. And when we moved in here, it was just, I had to actually take it away because it was getting all over the place. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised now if he's drawing like people with middle fingers, but but we do a little drawing club
big
thing.
Middle finger. Right?
Yeah, there's been a phase of curse words that we went through, and when you're 6 years old and at the school, I'm my Swedish is rubbish, but I definitely know some of those words.
And another one here. Who are some of Brian's artistic touchstones? Lucy, I assume that's for you. I'm kidding.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think. I mean, if we're talking artists, I mean, Saul Steinberg and Ben Shahn, but in terms of storytelling, there's a great Swedish film director and commercial director named Roy Andersson, who's, if you don't know his work, you should look him up. He's incredibly funny. But Lucy and I were talking about this earlier. It's like, the idea of being funny is really hard. It's hard to write funny. It's hard to be a comedian on stage and not only write funny, but also deliver funny. I mean, I'm lucky if I can draw funny occasionally, but, Lucy was just delivering all these things like daily, just sending me more and more. Like after she took the list and started building out the story, it was like, that became like real inspiration, right? Those were the things that were like, like like when you have someone to collaborate with, that's just delivering greatness every single email. You're just like, you have to step up, So in many ways, I think, Lucy was inspiring a lot of that, and that kind of back and forth, when you have that to collaborate with, it's a real gift, You're lucky. So.
I mean, I think I was only funny because I was trying to make you laugh. So.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Targeted audience.
Exactly. Now, without getting too much into spoilers, you touched on this before, but there definitely seems like a potential tee up for a sequel. I know we're still a week away from the book being released, but is that something you're thinking about at this point?
I've been thinking about it for ages. It's all we've got it in. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we definitely have the material. It's just a matter of, again, like everything, I don't think we need another pandemic to make it, but
let's hope not.
But I think
it sort of ends on a cliffhanger, so it's kind of obvious what should happen next, I think.
Yeah.
So I really thought that.
And are you two, given that you are in two very different places, are you going to be able to get together to see the book together, do any sightings together or anything like that? Do you have any plans for next week?
Lucy, you have a little celebratory thing happening, yeah? Where you?
Well, my neighbors are dragging me out for a drink.
That's fun.
They're forcing me to have a little book launch, but I'm sure we will get together at some point. The thing is, Brian used to live in LA, So the time zones were a nightmare. When we first started the book, it was really hard. So now he's close. That's a lot easier. So we could potentially meet up somewhere.
Yeah, the hope is to do some of the the usual, the book events and things like that, and maybe sneak back to LA and do the LA book fair and my last book, we obviously visiting a lot of universities and doing talks and meeting with especially at art schools and things. That was a blast, sharing the book, sharing that book, and that's a great way to kind of spread the work, but also work with young new talent, like illustrators, artists that are excited about this stuff, and kind of turning on some lights for those guys too. So we'll definitely be doing some of that stuff for sure.
Awesome. Well, listen, congratulations on the book. I can't wait for the entire world to see it because it's so delightful. So it was such a joy to read. And I'm looking forward to the sequel whenever it comes.
Yeah, thanks
so much, guys.
All right, thanks. Have a good night. All right. Oop, I cut Brian off, but there we go. Classic move for me. Check out Fixing Flamingos.
Yes, please do. So amazing.
19th. Really, really delightful book. Why don't we bring in our next international guest who is on the opposite end of the time zones? He is one of the co-creators of Inferno Girl Red, which is currently running a Kickstarter. It's one of our favorite massive verse books as well. Matt Groom. Matt, welcome.
Hey, welcome.
Hey, everybody. I feel like I should have come in with my video inverted to really sell the bit. I'm like, I'm going to outside the world. How you guys doing?
Good. So you are in Australia, and it's morning, is what's going on.
It is good. 9:22 on Wednesday morning down here.
Oh, it's
man.
the
He's already got
future.
access to the comics. It's comic day.
So we love Inferno Girl Red. We love the whole massive verse. For anybody who hasn't checked it out, it is all these disparate characters who are connected by a shared superhero universe. When we left Inferno Girl Red, she, in the book 1 of the series, she and everybody at her school and in the city around her had been taken to some alternate dimension and trapped there. She faced enemies. She suffered loss. She took control kind of her powers. And now you're taking book 1 and book 2 onto Kickstarter. To start off with, why that move? Why was it important to take it onto Kickstarter and head in that direction with the book?
Yeah, I mean, Erica, my co-creator, and I always had a very specific vision of the book, and it was to create graphic novels specifically, because we wanted to be able to create something that could help bring in new readers to comics and hopefully catch some of those people who are experiencing superheroes elsewhere but haven't made the jump yet. And it was our feeling that novels were the form that would be most familiar and most accessible. And like, we absolutely love comic shops, but we also want to make something that will work really well in bookstores and libraries and things like that. But to make a 120-page graphic novel without the sort of like trickle of single issue funding coming in is extremely expensive, especially if you want to do it independently and you want to maintain control, like editorial control of the book, which is really important to us as well, because we had a very specific vision of what this book could be. And that really left us with Kickstarter. So we did a Kickstarter for the first one, and we were blown away by how much support we got and the enthusiasm. And when it came time for book 2, we thought it only made sense to go back and use that to help us fund the creation of the second one. And especially because it allows us to offer very cool, unique rewards, like our oversized hardcover with the Kickstarter exclusive cover, or the back matter. We've got artist prints that we only offer through the Kickstarter. So yeah, it's just a great marriage of sort of our need and the support of the community coming together to create independent comics.
Yay! Well, we're getting a bunch of comics, and it's I'm listening to you, but I'm really just looking at your lovely geek room that you are coming to us from. Do you mind like just kind of pointing out a couple things in that back room, because that poster looks amazing, the bookshelf of amazing kind of stuff there. I mean, I don't mean to derail everything, but man, I would love to be in that room because it looks so cool.
Totally. Well, that poster behind me is the trade cover for Self-Made, which was my first ever image series. That's by Eduardo Ferragato. If you are into Radiant Black, you'll know Eduardo, who's done some art for that series, and that's actually colored by Marcelo, who's the co-creator of Radiant Black.
Awesome.
So I love that, very near and dear to my heart. I have my replica Inferno Girl Red helmet on the shelf behind me. That was one of the rewards for the first Kickstarter campaign. One of, I think, 12 in the world. It's very cool.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats on getting
obviously, yeah, thank you. How did I pull that off?
Yeah, how did you pull that off?
Must have really donated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously I've got my comics and whatnot over here.
A lot of
like Lego flowers everywhere. Yeah, it's a real nerd place.
Can you talk a little bit about Inferno Girl Red's place in the Massiverse? We had Kyle Hins on the show a couple months back, maybe even a year at this point. I don't remember. Just generally talking about the Massiverse and the universe, but this was pre-Inferno Girl Red, I think. So I'm curious to hear how she fits in and how you came on board here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kyle and I started working on the book at about the same time together, and there was kind of individual books, and we both had different ideas of what we wanted to do. But it was Kyle, myself, and Ryan Parrott as well. We all kind of realized together that we were working on something that there was a lot of synergy there, and we had a lot of sort of like shared beliefs and shared passions, and we just kind of had this conversation of like, we want to make sure that the books remain accessible and it's never derailed by any shared continuity, or you never feel obligated to read anything else, but we could try our own kind of version of the shared superhero universe. And yeah, it just allowed us to do a lot of cool things. Like we do these annual crossovers called Supermassive. We've got a fighting card game featuring the characters coming out next year, which we're very excited about. Wow. So it allows us to all kind of support each other and have this little community while doing our own thing. And I love it because we're carving out our own spaces. Like each book feels very different. And it means that if you really love Inferno Girl Red and you hear about a Supermassive and you check that out, maybe you discover Radiant Black or Rogue Sun or The Dead Lucky or No One, and you get pulled off in another direction in our little universe.
It's amazing, like you're saying, the way that everything does feel sort of a piece while being wildly different and going in its own direction. I feel like that's so hard to achieve. And the way that you're able to, I guess, just sort of just be together without having to be, I feel like there would be pressure to be constantly leaning into each other's creative swings. Do you feel that, or are you just like, we check in every now and again?
Yeah, I mean, we all talk pretty constantly. It helps a lot that we're just friends. Like we all have a shared experience.
Oh, you talk to your friends? Interesting.
Yeah, but, when I have to.
It's crazy. When I have to.
We talk super regularly, and I think we both when we first had this idea, we all had kind of the same concerns as well. We didn't want to step on each other's toes. We didn't want to create a mess of continuity that messed up the reading experience. Because part of this for us was, in some ways, we wanted to try and, reinvent superhero comics. Sounds very grandiose, but like take another swing at it in our own little way and try and avoid some of the pitfalls that sometimes come necessarily from doing work at big publishers. And I think Kyle and Ryan have both had experiences at DC in particular where, they loved working on their books, but there were mandates that came in and they had to do certain things because of events and whatnot. So they had their own concerns coming in, the things they wanted to avoid. So we had a lot of guardrails set up, and most important of all was just that sense of making sure that we're never making extra work for people, that they could come in and read book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4 of any series, start anywhere, and have a complete and fulfilling experience.
Well, let me ask you about this, just a specific instance of potential coordination in Radiant Pink, and mild spoiler here if you haven't read it. There's this great scene when they're popping into different universes and taking a look, and they take a look through a portal and they see Inferno Girl Red's city right there. It's a great moment in the book, but how does that get set up? Does the Radiant Pink team call you and be like, hey, is it cool we do this? Pete's playing the It's Cool music, so we know it's cool. So
yeah, I mean, it's very like low-key and casual. Thankfully, Michael Basudel, Mr. Massiverse, as we call him, is the editor on all of the Massiverse books except for Inferno Girl Red, on which he's assistant editor. So he's across.
Oh. Nice.
So it's just like he'll just message me on WhatsApp and be like, "Hey, Melissa had this idea. Is this cool?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course. Go ahead." So very casual, and I think that's, we like to keep it that way. And in some ways, we feel like it's kind of the Image Comics vibe, just being casual, supporting each other. And I had this very bizarre moment when Carl and I experienced this firsthand when we're working on the second Supermassive, because we had this idea, because some of it is set in the medieval time period. We're like, medieval Spawn could be here. Do you think Todd McFarlane would go for that? And like, I don't like, it's the Todd, it's Spawn. I guess we could ask. So at a convention a year or two ago, Carl and I just sort of like approached Todd, laid everything out for us. He's like, "Yeah, man, of course, whatever. That sounds great. Happy to support you guys." And that was it. That was the end of the conversation. Approved, thumbs up, off you go. No other requests from him. So it was just very cool to see that our dynamic is kind of modeled across the grander Image universe. It was a really sweet moment.
That's cool.
Well, talk about a more specific dynamic, working with Erica Durso on the art. We love her art. It's so good in this book. Yeah. And I love the fact that, I assume part of this is the release schedule and the way they're hitting it, that it feels like the lines are very thick and the print is very good. And I assume there's a lot of time that she is spending on this. So talk a little bit about your coordination there.
Yeah, I mean, Erica's co-creator on the book, so she has been involved since the earliest stages. She's helped shape the story, and so much of her personality is infused all throughout it. And I think that's why, the work is so good. I think, too, she's found a partner in Igor Monti who colors the book, and his style, again, is, so vivid and specific, and they've discovered how much they elevate each other. But yeah, it's always been, thankfully, very casual, and we're also passionate about the book that, we all come from the place of just jamming and deciding on the best ideas, and there's no ego involved. We just want to make the best thing possible. And I think now that we're starting to work on book 2, the only thing that's really changed is that we have a better idea of each other's strengths, so we can really work to that. I know what Erica is going to hit out of the park most of all, and that's true of Igor as well. I know some of his coloring approaches and how much he can use light to impact a scene, and how he can use inverted colors to accentuate action, so I can build those moments more specifically into it. So if anything, we're just more of a well-oiled machine. But I feel so privileged to work with those guys. They're just the best.
Yeah. What about from a plot perspective? Like we mentioned, they're still in a pretty bad place here, maybe even a worse place in some senses at the end of book 1. So what can we expect in book 2?
Yeah. Well, yeah, things, Cassia had something of a victory at the end of book 1, but it also came at a pretty intense loss. And now Cassie's kind of without her only support network, not just the support network she had as a superhero, but really the only one she had as a person her entire life. So she's going to have to figure out how to rebuild that support network and figure out who she can turn to for help, especially in a city, in a place where enemies are everywhere and you don't know who you can trust. And she's going to have to do this at a time when things start going badly very quickly on a few different fronts, actually. She is obviously fighting this war against the darkness that's pressing in from all sides in the city, but also the consequences of what happened in the conclusion of book 1 and what that means for some of the people around her are going to come back to haunt her as well. So she's going to have both personal and kind of superheroic stakes to deal with. And then on top of all that, there's a pair of twin teenagers who are just the absolute worst. They're delightful. Come onto the scene. I think they're one of Erica's favorite sets of characters I've ever created because they're just irredeemable. And they have designs of their own on the city and they're going to cause problems as well. So she's chuckling a lot.
Yeah. And do you see this at this point? What is the arc? Is it a 3-book thing? Is it an ongoing thing?
I have broad plans, because we have to get this thing funded. We're really taking it book by book at the moment. But I do have a a broad kind of 6 to 7 book structure in mind, but
Wow, nice.
Yeah, it's loose in the sense of like I always want to make room to discover things as I go and chase down cool ideas. I never want to feel like I'm just rolling out a machine, you know. So there's we have those intentions, and I like doing that because it means that we can seed stuff like this stuff in book 1 that, you know, may not pay off until book 4 or book 5, for example, in small ways. And I like that sort of Chris Claremonty approach where you, while you're in the middle, in the thick of one story, you're laying the seeds for another. So it never feels like this strange confluence of like, oh, and now this thing has just started up just after the last thing finished conveniently. It's more of an organic way of telling stories.
That's how I found life to be.
Yeah, right?
It doesn't just end cleanly and then start up on the next mission.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
To ask specifically about the Kickstarter, so I'm just looking at it now. It already had a jump from when I checked it at the beginning of today, but you have a goal of 85,000. You're currently at 60,686 with 9 days to go.
It just went up on my screen.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Thank you for the help, guys.
Yeah, there we go. You're getting the vaunted comic book club bump that we talked
Yeah,
about.
I heard from the last interview that I'm going to be famous now. That's
To a 6-year-old. To a 6-year-old.
Look, I'll take it. Honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
In Stockholm. So in Stockholm, you're big.
In these last 9 days, if people pledge the Kickstarter, what can they expect?
Yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of different reward tiers. You can get the book. You can get book 2 digitally. You can get book 2 in our oversized exclusive hardcover. We're also offering book 1 as a hardcover and a PDF. So if you're new to Inferno Girl Red, you can jump in. We also have the chance to get drawn into Inferno Girl Red. Ooh. We have writer portfolio reviews with myself and Kyle and Michael. We have artist portfolio reviews with Erica and Kyle.
That's awesome.
We also have the granddaddy of them all, the hugest tier, which is going into the Massiveverse, where you get drawn into every single Massiveverse book.
What?
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's crazy.
Across the line. And you'll also get from Erica an illustration of you standing alongside the Massiveverse heroes. You'll get that original art from Erica, and then Igor will color that, so you'll have a colored digital version as well.
Wow.
Is there?
Yeah, that's wild.
That's
a cameo
amazing.
in every book.
And there's
Every
a
book.
tier where you actually get the powers of Radiant Black, right?
Yeah. That's a big one. We had to
That's a
really
big
set the number
tier,
high
yeah.
on that
That's
one.
a
Just-
stretch.
just
It's
one
a
of
stretch
those,
goal.
Yeah. We also have some add-ons. There's some Inferno Red pins. We're doing a behind-the-scenes podcast series. I feel like the second of game. But yeah, there's heaps of stuff. No matter what you'd like, we've got it.
Yeah, you got it all covered.
You got it all covered. That is awesome, Matt. We love this book. Fingers crossed, because I really do want to see the second one. I'm very excited for it. Congratulations on everything. I guess I would say good night, but enjoy the rest of your day.
Good morning.
Yeah,
morning.
enjoy Wednesday.
Good evening to you guys, and thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Later.
All right. There we go. Once again, Inferno...
I hate to leave his room. It was so cool in there.
Yeah, you were online booking a ticket to Australia right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want to go to that location? It seems so nerdy.
That's the
and
number one
delightful.
location in Australia. Did you know that?
I believe that. I
You
believe. I
stop
want to
at
go
the
there just
Sydney
for that
Opera
room.
House, and then you go there. Those are the two.
I would switch
Huge
the order,
turd.
but
That
still, I
feels
would hit a bump.
insulting somehow, but anyway. But yeah, you should go pledge it. Oh, it did jump up a little bit. You're right. Go check it out. It is up as of this taping, 9 days. It's going to close September 21st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern, and it's great. And we have one more guest, for you tonight. He is the creator of the upcoming Haunted House, a love story. Ladies and gentlemen, Winston Gambro. Winston.
Hey, welcome, Winston.
Hey, guys.
Now, let's start
All
off with our time zone check. What time zone are you in?
Yeah,
Winston?
where are
I
you?
come
in
from the
world?
distant land of Chicago, Illinois.
Whoa,
Ooh,
that is
Chicago.
actually a different time zone than us.
Yeah, all right.
It's
cool.
earlier there.
It's all
Yeah,
coming
well,
together.
setting this up, I had to Google the time zone difference 3 or 4 times.
Right?
Oh man.
Well, there you go. Well, I'm excited to talk about this book. This one is not going to be out for a while. I believe it's in stores November 1st. Is that correct?
Yeah,
From Blood
and
Moon?
FOC is the end of this week.
Okay. So for those who don't know, who are casual comic book fans, that's final order cutoff. So that basically means if you like what we're talking about here on the show, go to your comic book shop, tell them you want to order the comic. because that really helps in terms of setting the tone for the orders. But there you go. Why don't we talk about it? Winston, do you want to give the pitch for the book? Because we are so far off. Normally I'd do it, but I'd rather not spoil anything, so I'd rather hear from you.
Yeah, sure. It's about a sentient house that falls in love with the person living in it. And when that person gets into a relationship with someone else, the house gets jealous and seeks vengeance.
Yeah, it's one of my worst nightmares.
You worried about the houses coming for you, Pete?
Yeah, definitely. It's like my luck. I don't fall in love with a human. A house becomes obsessed with me, and then it's all over.
Yeah, Pete, I don't mean to scare you, but there's one right behind you.
I really like this book a lot. This is a creepy, weird, engrossing, romantic, and sad story, like you were hinting there. I love the fact that it's also not ongoing, but a mini-series, so you're going to get to see more about this. This feels like the sort of thing that could be very Tales from the Crypt done in one, but that's clearly not the intention here. Why make it a 6-issue series versus that one shot?
Well, I had a full story I wanted to tell, and I guess it's not a spoiler to say that each issue is going to be one of the 5 stages of grief, starting with issue 2. So using that framing device, I kind of got locked into a total of 6 issues. So this issue is the grief itself, and the rest of the series is how the house goes through it.
Now, when in a lot of comics, it's when you're designing your main character, you look at different fashion ideas, different body characteristics. This your main character is a house, sort of technically. So, how did you choose the house?
Yeah, how'd you?
Oh, that's a good one. I looked up a lot of architecture, a lot of Victorian era houses, as well as just famous.
It's the creepiest. Yeah,
allegedly haunted houses or actually haunted houses. And then I kind of composited it all, and I have a friend that's a 3D modeler, and he took my drawings and made an actual 3D model that I used as reference.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
So when you were going through and creating the book, you kind of could actually figure out where the characters were going geographically based on that model?
Unfortunately, I wish next time I would do that. It was just the exterior, so all exterior shots are traced over this 3D model, so I wouldn't have to rework perspective in every single panel every single time. But yes, interiors next time for Haunted House: A Love Story 2, Book of Secrets.
Ooh, I already love that.
Good name.
Book
good
of
name.
Secrets. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's a reference to National Treasure 2, Book of Secrets.
Yes.
This is not really
not a reference to Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows. Totally different.
Book of Shadows.
Both great books. Top of my
favorite
list.
books. Exactly.
Yeah. I knew I should have gone with Haunted House 2, Secret of the Ooze.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Now you're speaking Pete's language.
Yeah.
For purposes.
Haunted House 2, Electric Boogaloo is also.
Can you talk a little bit? Sorry to derail from this. Derailment, which is a railment, I guess. What was the inspiration here? Were there specific movies, stories?
Did you fall in love with a house one time and it broke your heart? Tell us the truth.
No, it came on to me.
Oh, I've heard that before.
So yeah, I just remember watching a haunted house show, and I'm like, well, I wonder if this is like what's the house's perspective of this? Like, we see so much haunted house stuff where it's the house is built where it shouldn't be, or like a person was murdered in it. And I was thinking, what if the house itself is the problem? All these spooky things are because the house is trying to act out.
I agree about getting the house's perspective. Any home improvement show I watch, I'm like, did you ask permission?
Did you check the house? Yeah, exactly.
I love the lettering in this book as well. For anybody who's listening, we're looking at a couple pages here, and particularly for the house.
The house voice is great.
Yeah, the house voice, it's built into the pages itself. There's no bubbles or anything like that. What led to that choice in particular?
I just kind of had visual inspiration in mind. Like a lot of how I make comics, I just have a certain scene in my head already, and this one I just thought it'd be more ominous if the words were actually part of the house, or part of the scene rather than a comic tool.
Do you view the house as the protagonist or the antagonist?
Ooh, spoilers maybe.
I would say the protagonist, especially with the journey we go on.
That's
Interesting.
Cool.
And just to sort of wrap this up here a little bit, so it's coming out November 1st. If people want to pick it up, what should they do? Go to the comic book store and say, please order this at this point?
Yeah, the best thing you can do is just go to your local comic shop and say, I want Haunted House of Love Story. It's in previews and it's coming through Blood Moon Comics. If you tell your comic shop that, they'll know what to do.
Yeah.
Go tomorrow when you go get your comics.
And do you have all 6 issues done at this point? Are they ready to go?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it'll be coming out monthly after that.
Oh, that's great.
We have a comment here from Anthony Lash saying, I met Winston in Chicago. He draws a great Silver Surfer. Can you confirm or deny that?
Yeah, I kind of a gimmick to get people to my Comic-Con tables. My business card has a little white square on it, and I will say, what's your favorite superhero? And while they browse at my table, I'll draw for them. And so I was lucky enough to, thank you. I was lucky enough to meet Anthony and draw him a Silver Surfer.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's a great thing to do at the table.
Yeah, Alex is going to steal that idea.
Yes, it's mine now.
Be prepared to draw a lot of Spider-Mans.
What I'm going to draw is a lot of stick figures with happy faces on them because that's all I can draw. So don't worry.
That's not a good Spider-Man. He's famously not super happy.
Oh, you turn it upside down. It's a frown, man.
Oh yeah.
Winston,
he's sticking the ceiling.
Oh yeah.
Like that Australia guy who is also upside down, who we just had on the show. Winston, thank you so much for coming on. The book is great. I can't wait for people to check it out. Please go to your comic book shop and order it. And thank you. Enjoy the rest of the night in Chicago.
Awesome.
You have an extra hour.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Winston. Great book.
All right, there we go. Once again, it is called Haunted House, a Love Story, and it is very, very cool.
Yeah.
And folks, we are going to move on to our next section, which is my favorite section because you all make it up as your audience questions. And for audience questions, all you got to do is drop a question in the comments on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, and we will get to them. They can be about absolutely anything. But why don't we go to what you drinking? I am still working my way through this delicious Flamingo Blood cocktail.
Flamingo blood. I don't know if that's.
I think that's what he said.
Is that what you made, Alex?
I think I drained a flamingo. I
squeezed it from the bottom.
I mean, they got that juicy part in the middle. You hold the neck, and you hold the legs, and you just sort of like twist it like a towel.
Are you
I'm having a great time.
Okay.
Juicy part in the middle. You could say that about anything. I guess I'm drinking, after Alex's comment, my own vomit, but also I'm drinking a little Pills Mafia. Go Pills!
Pills! Oh, that was a tough loss
last night for the Bills.
Also, tough loss for the Jets, man. I mean, come on, Aaron Rodgers couldn't even get through a set of plays. That was heartbreaking.
Aaron Rodgers died, right? I think I read that.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
And,
to a lot of fans, yes.
Yeah.
Pony Boy.
The Pony Boy. Yeah, I'm drinking
Pony
a little
Boy.
Pony Boy, still polishing these tall boys off. That's the nice thing about a taller beer is you get more beer.
Well, cool. We got a couple of questions already, and just to frame this up for anybody who doesn't know, we were at Baltimore Comic-Con this past weekend. We were, all three of us together for the first time.
That wasn't a fever dream?
In the same place for since when? March 14th or something like that?
Of 2003?
I think shutdown happened on a Tuesday, maybe, or maybe a Monday. I forget, but it was like 6 days before that, so it was like March 5th or something. March 7th, maybe.
Wild. Well, there we go. Why don't we go to this one first from Michael Tillman? Favorite moment from Baltimore Comic-Con? Favorite cosplay? For the second question, I'm going to turn to Pete because Pete is our cosplay aficionado.
He's got his eyes on the crowd.
A lot of great cosplay out there. There was a dog that had a lightsaber in its mouth that was amazing, who swung by our table for a pic, which I was super happy about. There was a guy dressed up from Spaceballs with the all-white outfit with the white dome that was amazing.
That's all Pete talks about on Sundays.
Oh, man, there were so many.
And Moranis.
Yeah, Rick Moranis from Ghostbusters with a kind of like a metal thing on its head was just an adorable choice by this lovely girl. So, yeah, there was a lot of.
Speaking, sorry, that reminded me. I love the girl who had the Appa from Avatar: The Last Airbender
hoodie.
That was great. It was
cool.
just like a very stealth cosplay.
There was also an amazing Miss Marvel that was had an amazing outfit as well.
Yeah, that was very good.
My favorite, I think, was there was this cosplayer dressed as Pete LePage, but it was his beard was really gray, so it was a little off.
Hey,
And the Alex I saw was just like a couple inches shorter than the real Alex.
Oh, come on, man.
Justin, yeah, I don't know. It's almost like those baby tees were just fitting you a little too tight. Maybe they're cutting off a little oxygen.
That's 100% true. I'm definitely losing oxygen and gaining lbs.
What about favorite moment from Baltimore Comic Con other than the cosplay? What did you guys like in particular? I mean, I'll throw out one. This is, there were a lot of things that I really liked in general. Just meeting people who are coming out and saying, hey, I've been listening to your show for years was so nice and so flattering and so wonderful to hear. I know we hear it from you all in the comments a lot, and we appreciate that too, of course, but just also people who are like, oh my God, I used to listen to you guys back in the day. You're still doing this. I'm going to listen to the podcast again. But a specific personal experience was getting there Friday morning to do load in and going through the backstage of the convention center with all the stuff to bring it in.
It was cool. It was
cool.
Going through the backstage.
It was like, it was an exciting feeling.
I felt like a rock star being loaded 100%. In the back. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. So that was definitely the moment where I was like, oh, we're actually doing this. We're doing a table. We're actually at a Comic-Con, which I've barely been to any comic conventions or literally anything for the past couple of years. So that was really fun. And then all of the interviews we did over the course of the weekend, that was really fun as well.
Yeah, my favorite piece of being at the con, besides seeing you dorks, was our interview with Torrin Gronbeck.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
I love talking to her about all of the books that she does, Realm of X, Thor, all that. Really great interview. Coming soon.
Yeah, there was a lot of really great moments. The people watching was amazing, but also just kind of being a part of the nerd factor in Baltimore was really nice. There was this fun moment where I was walking to get food, which I like to do, and there was like this race going by, and the guy who was going to the convention was like, I don't want to be healthy. And he had to like run to kind of get across so he wouldn't interrupt the race. It was just such a funny thing to yell. But yeah, I agree. Like just kind of the interviews and seeing everybody was really awesome. But also just like seeing other people dressed up like friend groups and kind of like what they all kind of showed up as, and seeing kind of being able to witness all that was just really, really cool.
Cool. Why don't we got a bunch more questions here. This is from Derek Mainhart. Loved all the CBC interviews from Baltimore Con. Doc Shaner teased an upcoming Black Label title. Any guesses as to what characters he's tackling? My guess is Challengers of the Unknown. Just to mention, we have a bunch more interviews that are going to be going up over the next couple of weeks, so definitely check them all out. We already put up stuff with Tony Fleeks, talking about Stray Dogs, Local Man, and Army of Darkness. We have Doc Shaner. That was a delight. He was so nice. He got held up at his table because he had like a line around the block. It was so apologetic about it and came over the next day. Absolutely lovely to talk to him about Strange Adventures and his Black Label stuff. And the other one that we put up was David Papose. We talked to him about the Punisher. Pete is now sold on the new Punisher.
Well, we got to see some images of it.
I don't know. Secret. That's a secret.
And there's plenty more to come, so definitely check all of that out. But one of the things, just to be more specific about this, Doc Shaner is doing a Black Label title. If I remember correctly, he said it was something that people have been asking him about for a while, but he wasn't sure how to do, and he finally figured out how to do it. And he's going to be both writing and drawing the book.
And you had an interesting guess that you.
My immediate guess was Metal Men is what I thought it was.
That's funny. I was thinking like Metamorpho, Metal Men, definitely in that space. But
yeah, Metal Men is just one because I feel like it's a tough nut to crack. Like it's tough to wrap your head around, and it feels like the sort of thing you could do something really interesting in a Black Label book. I'd also love to see Doc Shader draw the Metal Men. But Challengers of the Unknown is a good guess as well.
Yeah, also.
There we go.
Thanks, Derek Mainhart.
This is from Nelson Kelso, checking in to see if you guys finished My Adventures with Superman. Also, Pete, have you started your One Piece live action journey yet?
Damn it, Nelson Kelso. You're right. I'm slipping. I should have been watching One Piece. God, I forgot about One Piece. Oh, dang it. I knew there was something I should have been doing.
I am 7 episodes into My Adventures with Superman, and it is so good. I've been watching it with my son, so whenever we watch next, we'll probably finish it off. But it's great. You've been watching it a little bit too, right, Justin?
I actually haven't watched it yet. I was going to, and then my my daughter and I are watching Rebels instead.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to watch Rebels coming out of Ahsoka, and she's like, what'd you say? And I was like, play. So we're giving that a shot. It's good.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I started it. I got to pick back up. So far, it's amazing.
I'll just bring up this comment per the sports discussion earlier. Billy Coyle on Facebook says, that's 75 seconds of play with about 75 million guaranteed. Not a bad day. Do you guys understand what that means?
Yes. Yeah.
That's Aaron Rodgers.
It's not exactly how you'd like to do it for sure.
Maybe that's not the best way to it, but I heard ayahuasca actually is really good for Achilles injuries. So
shots fired! Shots fired!
That's just positive. That's just good medical advice.
Oh man.
This is from Brett Macris. After all the great interviews you've done
Stray
at Baltimore
Bullies?
Stray Bullies. After all the great interviews you've done at Baltimore Comic-Con, has there ever been an interview that threw you guys? Someone that you asked yourself if this person should be canceled? Well, no, I don't know if they're about canceled, but we've talked a lot about how the Venture brothers, when we interviewed them at New York Comic Con, they were not
always
having
challenging
it at all.
Well, they clearly are like, you want to interview us? Good luck. And then, we just grabbed the saddle and tried to hold on for dear life. And I honestly thought we always did a good job. We always could find some jokes in there to hit.
Some people you got to prove you're worthy of their time and energy. Some people, what we've talked to, and then just been like, "Oh God, what have we gotten ourselves into?" For sure, I don't want to name any names or anything, but yeah, it's definitely been like, "What kind of can of worms did we open?"
I'll name one that I think I ended up doing by myself, if I remember correctly. Alex, you might have been there, but Corey Feldman.
I think we did him together. I think we interviewed him together. I think so.
That one, I was like, "What are we talking about?" And then he was just a combination of famous person who is like there to do something but maybe isn't the most passionate about it, and us being like, let's talk about this thing. That was a wild one.
Yeah. This is from Kevin after the recipe book. What's the next CBC tome going to be? So just for anybody who doesn't know about this, we brought to Baltimore a little ash can, basically a self-printed zine type book of some of Brett's awesome cocktail recipes to sell at the table. People loved it. We're super into it, which was exciting. I think if we do another table at some point, we'll probably do another 5 recipes. So that'll probably be the next CBC tome or something like that. And we'll
Dark Betty was in there, in case you're wondering.
Dark Betty was in there. That's the one that I plugged. My sales pitch was always like, I would go through, I'd show them the cocktails. They'd like, their eyes would pop out of their head because they'd be so excited about comic book cocktails. I'd be like, I swear they're like actually legit delicious cocktails, because I think most of the stuff that you find online is like, it's a kryptonite cocktail and it's just all sour apple juice. And that's pretty much it.
It tastes like melted Jolly Ranchers. You're going to love it. These cocktails were legit. I mean, we got to do full color edition. Let's go.
Well, I mean, Stray Bullies is a real chef. I mean, the dude is unbelievably legit.
I can attest to that.
Yeah,
I can also attest to it. Don't try flexing on me, brah.
Tell you what, I can attest to it. This is from Derek. Any cool Baltimore bar stories? You guys went to a bar afterwards.
Yeah, we did. We got sick in your shit, and we were like, "Yo, let's go to a bar, man." Yeah, that was fun.
We went to a bar on our way out of town. Pete and I went and guzzled some beer. Pete got a crab cake, even though he lives down there. He was like, "I'm gonna have a crab cake."
I always wondered how, because I've been to that bar a bunch of times and saw the crab cake on the menu, and the pictures look pretty good. So I was like, how legit is it?
Pictures
pretty legit.
So after my 2 beers, I got in the car with Alex, who was driving, and drove through one of the more insane thunderstorms I've ever been in a car for.
Glad you had those beers, huh?
Oh my God! First, we were driving out and saw the most beautiful rainbow I've ever seen in my life. It was a legit total complete arc over the highway. It was super there. It was not a reedy rainbow. It was a real rainbow. It was gorgeous. And we're like, wow, what a lovely drive we're having. And then 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, something like that, sheets of rain so hard you couldn't see right in front of the windshield. It was pretty horrifying.
But you guys are alive, so that's great news.
No, we're doing this from heaven per our first guests.
Yeah.
We have a couple of great guesses here for what Doc Shader might be doing. Blackhawk, New Gods, Barbarian.
New Gods a good guess.
Yeah. I could see that. That would be interesting. Stanley says, was it different meeting each other in person than online? What did you do all when you first met up?
Well, these guys were down there for 2 days ahead of me. So when I got down there, they were already sort of sick of each other, mischaracterizing, or at least in a routine.
We were in the routine.
We were in a routine,
yeah. So the 3 of us stood there awkwardly for a minute, and then I said, let's take a picture. Or Alex said that maybe.
Yeah, I just kept poking him to be like, are you real? Are you seriously right in front of me? Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah. I will mention 2 things that happened in terms of seeing each other for the first time. Actually, just one thing is that Justin texted and was like, hey, I'm here. And I came out with his badge, and Pete came back with a bunch of waters and some other stuff you had picked up, came down the stairs, and I was like, hey, Justin's almost here. And Pete was like, great. And then went into the con and left me there.
All business.
I was carrying
heavy
stuff. I had to set it down and I had a goal. You know what I mean?
See, look at these two. This is how they were in person, except nonstop.
This is from Frederico
Stop
Grossa.
judging me.
Do you guys usually listen back to episodes you missed?
Great question. I do. Not everyone, maybe, but I definitely like to hear the takes and guests that I missed, because I can't be behind on anything.
I listen to see how mad I should be at you guys the next time I'm on the mic.
And I don't miss episodes.
All right, big time.
That's legit true. Shouts to Alex.
No, or if I do miss an episode, I'm editing it together. So, of course, I'm listening to it a little bit. And we got one last one here from Brett. Does a house that falls in love give new meaning to Alex's favorite term, fuckholes? I bring this up just because I want to say, I want to get a little credit for the fact that I wanted to make a joke about that, and I didn't.
You want credit for that? You want credit for that?
Several times I restrained myself, and I think that's really a Herculean effort on my part. So thank you, guys.
Thank you for that.
You're sober as a monk, Alex.
All right, that is it for your audience questions. Woo-hoo. We're going to move on with our next section, which is trivia, and for that, we're going to turn it over to Pete LePage.
All right, yeah. This is the part we give back to you, the lovely audience. It's an opportunity to win $25 free to Midtown Comics Online, or maybe Filet-O-Fish, or whatever stupid...
Heat.
Long John Silver. My bad. Long John Silver for some reason or whatever. But yeah, all we need is a first hand up. I'll volunteer. Somebody make Kevin do it. Something along those lines. Or if we don't hear anything, maybe one of you guys will volunteer and we can give something to.
We'll get someone. We've had a lot of people in the crowd raising their hands.
Yeah. If not, we can donate to what do you guys think? Like the impeach Joe Biden fund? We can do that.
Maui, dude. We go to Hawaii's going through a horrible thing right now.
You don't get to go to Maui if you donate to Maui.
No, you donate to all the rebuilding that's going over there.
Barbarian Kung Fu says, "Do I ask you a question?" And then Panico Mondial says, can I go? Do we want to give it to Panico so that Barbarian can see? Oh, David said I'll do it. David's up.
Oh, David's up.
All right. It is up. David, you are up. Okay.
All right, here we go. Today's trivia is topical comedy news. and a small nod to the legend, Gail Honeycutt, R.I.P. Please listen to all three options before making your selection. Here we go. Question number 1. Justin's wish has come true. Who will be in Gen V? Is it A, The Deep, B, Philip J. Fry, or C, Ray Fry? A little nod to Justin in this one and his love of the deep.
Interesting.
Right.
Only the deep. What? Only the deep is a boy's character.
Yeah, I guess that is a big clue. Alex, did Pete? Are you part of trivia now?
I don't know. I'm just trying to kill time.
Oh, that's nice of you.
It's not killing time when we're all hanging out like friends.
Oh, is this what we're doing?
David says okay. What does that
Okay,
mean?
well, he's right. Okay is right. It's the deep. A is correct. Nice
I'm
job,
glad we
David.
do this part of the show. This works well.
Yeah, I think so too. And what's nice is over the years it's been getting better. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Real improvement.
As your patience increases, Pete.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Question number 2. Dark Horse is coming out with a gothic horror western comic called Canary, written by whom? Is it A, Scott Snyder, B, super French name, or C, Jean-Paul Dubois?
I see. Now, we actually reported this news on Comic Book Club News, our daily news podcast that drops in its own dedicated feed. So if you've been listening to that, you would know the answer to this, like some sort of canary in a coal mine.
Maybe Pete wrote this question as a subtle nod to set you up for that very particular plug.
That's what he always does. You know what, Pete?
He listens.
Yes. Well, not just that he listens, but Pete is always somebody who's like, whatever I can do to set up you, Alex, to talk about one of our other podcasts in a coherent and cohesive way, I'm happy to do it.
Yes, you are right, David. It is A. Thank you for saving this. All right, here we go. Question number 3. In December, we were getting a Hellboy winter special called Blank. Is it A, Hellboy murders Santa and chugs a beer, B, the Yule Cat, or C, Gene Hackman?
Oh, interesting. We actually reported that as well on the Comic Book Club News podcast in its own Monday through Friday, 6 a.m., which you can also listen to ad-free at patreon.com/comicbookclub.
Alex, be careful. If you plug something twice, it's called an unplug.
Yeah.
You just unplug that. Don't that. It's part of us.
Well,
You're the weatherman. You're the weatherman on Comic Book Club News.
Yes. Whatever you want it to be, I guess, would be the answer.
Oh, that was smooth, man. It was smooth.
Thanks, Ben.
Wow. I love this. Is the first time we've ever helped out. That's the confusing part to me, is Alex contributing.
Yeah. David, you're right. B is the correct answer.
He didn't say that, but that's all right.
You did, as Pete was saying it.
Oh, he did say it. Okay, there we go. So congratulations, David. You have won a gift card to Midtown Comics. Shoot us an email, and we will get that to you. Pete, what is the secret movie that you were hinting at here?
Of course, I was talking about the 1985 thriller Target.
What?
Yeah,
why?
Gene Hackman.
This person
Matt
died.
Dillon.
This person. Did you just watch this movie, or did
No.
you just go to a Target?
Who is this person?
She died like last month.
You know, guys, there's a lot of people that die, unfortunately. You know what I mean? I try to get to everybody in a reasonable
You don't have
time.
to get to everybody. You also don't have to do a tribute to a dead person.
You're right, Alex. I don't. But yet I do because I care.
Oh, okay. Fair
Nice.
enough.
Thank
You
you
know
for
what I
caring
care
about
about?
Gail Honey.
You know what I care about? I care about the fact that new comics are coming out all the time. What are you guys looking forward to that is coming out this week? Pete, what titles are you looking forward to?
Oh, man, there's a lot of great stuff. But I also want to thank Michael Tillman for pointing out the proper way to pronounce Target. I'm looking forward to Hexagon Bridge #1.
Wow.
Batman Gargoyle of Gotham #1. And also Incredible Hulk #4.
What about you, Justin?
It's weird. I agree with all of Pete's picks, oddly. A couple from me. There's a couple interesting X books coming out that Alex and I will talk about, no doubt, in on the stack, but also in our Fall of X podcast that we do. But I got to shout out Danger Street #9 by Tom.
Yes, dude. Can't wait to talk to you guys about that.
This is my favorite issue of the series. Sick, just like one-off issue, great conversation and back and forth. And I'm not going to let a week go by without highlighting the Enfield Gang Massacre by Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips, my guys from That Texas Blood. I love this book as well. Check it out.
Alex, if I may, before you start, I just wanted to say, like, I was talking about Incredible Hulk, and Philip Kennedy Johnson is someone we had an amazing interview with. And, he talked about this book a little bit.
Absolutely. And two that I'll give a shout out to, From the World of Minor Threats, the Alternates #1. We really love this superhero riff from Patton Oswalt and Jordan Bloom. Tim Seeley is coming on board for this new series, which very much looking forward to that, from Dark Horse. And the other one is Avengers Inc. #1, written by Al Ewing, which looks to be very interesting to talk about.
A lot of Al Ewing in the stack.
Yeah, a lot of Al Ewing. We're viewing Al Ewing.
Wow.
He's profession Al Ewing. That's how busy he is.
There we go. Well, there you all go. That is it for this week's show. There's a couple of people we want to thank. We want to thank Brian Rea and Lucienne Brown for coming on to talk about Fixing Flamingos.
You got to check out that book. It's crazy.
Great book.
Excuse me, from Chronicle. Matt Groom for talking about Inferno Girl Red.
Yes,
that is on
amazing.
Kickstarter for the next 9 days. Oh my God.
Don't die.
I'm going to make it through somehow. Winston Gambro. Go check out Haunted House of Love Story.
God, what is your deal?
I don't know. Haunted House of Love Story in stores November 1st, but final order cutoff is the end of this week. Next week on the show,
Tell them about it.
Steve Arena is going to be here to talk about Foul Mouth, and Josh Tuninga to talk about We Are Not Strangers. Scott Pilgrim versus the podcast. Our Scott Pilgrim podcast is kicking off, running through the old volumes of the series as we lead up to the Netflix series. Comic Book Club News, which I already mentioned a couple of times in its own dedicated feed. Sons of a Gun, our DC podcast. Marvel Vision, our Marvel podcast. Patreon.com/Comic Book Club to support the show and all the shows we do. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Android, Spotify, or the app of your choice. At Comic Book Live on Twitter/X. Comic Book Club Live on Instagram and TikTok. ComicBookClubLive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, we'll see you at the Comic Book Club.
At the Comic Book Con. Alex has con cough. Later.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm fine. I'm doing fine.
Are you, though?
Don't even worry about it. I'm fine.
David McKay and Riley Trahan.